I am doing the Artist's Way again. Well, really, I'm gonna complete it for the first time, but I have tried and failed so many times with the Artist's Way. But this is the time that I finish it, and I really mean it this time. If you've never heard of the Artist's Way, it's a course by Julia Cameron. On the cover, it says a course in discovering and recovering your creative self. It's all about reclaiming your creativity, getting in touch with your inner artist, and actually making your art. And art can mean so many different things. That can be your writing, content creation, it could be creating films, or wanting to be more creative at work, even if that's not a stereotypical creative job, having more creative thinking. It's for anyone who wants to tap into the creativity that they already have. There are 12 weeks in the course, and each week has different prompts and tasks associated with it, a different theme, and readings that you complete. There are two main components, I would say, of the Artist's Way, and those are morning pages and the artist date. So morning pages are something that you do every single day. They are 3 journal pages of just whatever pops up into your head. So the idea is that first thing when you wake up, you go to your journal, you go to your notebook, and you write by hand these 3 long journal pages. Julia Cameron says the idea of morning pages is to get us to the other side of our fear and negativity, to get all of that out on paper so then we have the space and the capacity to actually create. She describes it as teaching your logical brain to kind of step aside so that your artist brain is able to come out and play, that you're able to get all that junk out of your head and out on paper so that it's so much easier to be creative. And a line that I really resonated with, she says, "It is very difficult to complain about a situation morning after morning, month after month, without being motivated to constructive action." Morning pages are a way that we become aware that this is really a problem, and then that motivates us to take action. And the second key component is the artist date. So this is a weekly date with yourself, a weekly date with your inner artist. She suggests setting aside 2 hours a week and doing something creative, something that's fun, but the idea is for it to be a solo date with yourself. Morning pages kind of help us understand the problem and what might be blocking us, and then the artist date is where we receive and really act on our creativity. And then there are also tasks and exercises, different journal prompts. There are honestly a lot for each week. I don't know how you would be able to complete all of them while also working and living a life, but they are really interesting, and she kind of suggests picking a couple to do each week. I wanted to do the Artist Way because I am a better person when I'm creating. And I have picked up this book and started it a couple of times. I actually picked it up very recently in March, and I got to week 7 and then I just kind of stopped. I think I got back a lot of my creative spark and just didn't feel like it was worth my time anymore, especially because the morning pages can be very time consuming to write 3 long form journal pages every single day. I wish I hadn't stopped. I wish I had kept going because I kind of feel like I'm in a similar spot now where I have a lot of ideas and things that I want to create, but there is something that's blocking me and stopping me. And I feel a lot of frustration around it. I feel like, why can't I just take action and do this thing? So that's why I wanted to start it again. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to start again with week 8, but I am feeling like I kind of forget some of the lessons. I just kind of want to start over and complete the full 12 weeks. And that should take me to the end of the year. And it was my goal in the beginning of 2025 to finish the Artist's Way this year. I'm going to start over, hopefully complete it in fall, and I'm excited to see what I get out of it by completing the full course. I'm going to be using this notebook for my morning pages. This is a little bit smaller than what she recommends, but honestly, it's a struggle sometimes for me to get to 3 pages, even in this. This is what I'm going to be using. It's a notebook I had at home, so I didn't have to buy anything else. There's stuff in the beginning of this notebook, but I'm just turning the page, and this will be the start of my morning pages. I'll also take some notes on the reading in this. There's a couple things that I'm going to do differently this time around that I think are going to better set me up for success. I am just going to get through this book. I'm going to bulldoze my way through is kind of how I'm thinking about it. I think I was approaching this last time as almost like 75 hard. If I missed a day of morning pages, if I didn't go on an artist date, if I didn't complete every single one of the exercises, that felt like I needed to start over, which is so ridiculous to say out loud. But I think a lot of us can get stuck in this black and white thinking, so I don't think I'm alone in that. I don't need to start over if I don't do every single day of morning pages. Like, that is nowhere in this text that you need to do it. I also think that's part of why I stopped last time. I think there were like a couple days in a row where I wasn't able to do the morning pages, and then it was like I was out of the habit, I was out of the routine, so I just kind of stopped. So my goal for this is that even if I have a week where I'm not hitting 7 out of 7 days for morning pages, I don't go on an artist date, I'm still going to continue with the course, because I also feel that this book is something that I'm going to do many times in my lifetime. I could even see myself doing this once a year. It's just such a nice refresher and a way to connect pretty quickly with your creative self. even though I haven't completed it a couple of times now, I still got a lot of value out of it, and it's something I wanted to return to. So that tells me like there's still things that I can learn from this. And then another thing I'm doing differently is I'm going to be recording my reflections on it on my YouTube channel. I am thinking right now I'm going to do a couple weeks at a time. So we're going to start with weeks 1 through 3. So there'll probably be 4 videos in this series. And I would love if this inspires you to pick up the book yourself and try The Artist's Way. I'm going to talk about key insights from the readings, my reflections from the week, and then also some accountability on how the morning pages went, if I went on the artist date, and if I did any of the tasks. So if you've been curious about The Artist's Way, or if you've done it and you just want to hear how it went for somebody else, I hope you stick around and watch. But let's go ahead and dive into the first week of The Artist's Way. I've actually already completed it. I'm really excited to tell you how this first week went. Week 1 in The Artist's Way is recovering a sense of safety. I felt a lot of inspiration this week. I think anytime that you're starting something new, it's kind of that fresh start, Monday feel, New Year's feel, where you're like, yes, I am so motivated. There's no way I'm not gonna complete this. I'm so excited to do my morning pages and my artist date. I just felt a lot of excitement and giddiness almost around restarting this. The reading in this week was really all about the ways that we block ourselves from following our art, being true artists. I really resonated with one of the clues that you are feeling blocked is jealousy, and having thoughts of, I could do that if only, insert excuse here. I could do that if only I didn't work so much. I would be able to write my novel if only I had more support, more financial resources, insert whatever it is for you here. That mental self-talk can often be a clue that we are blocking ourselves, and that jealousy can come up when we are seeing other people do things that we know that we're capable of doing, but we are not acting on it. Another thing that resonated is that when you're feeling blocked in an area of your life, it means that you feel safer that way. It's almost that you've gotten comfortable with that. So rocking the boat and changing something, really deciding, I'm gonna commit to writing a novel, I'm gonna commit to posting content online, that is scary to our inner artists. And I always think of it also as the nervous system because that's part of my work. This time around, I'm really seeing a lot of parallels with creative recovery and nervous system recovery, trauma recovery, being emotionally regulated again. But our bodies, our inner artists get used to how things are, and that feels comfortable. So anything that challenges that comfort zone, even if it's something that we want, we're gonna resist it, and we get these blocks where we just can't take action. Small ways that these blocks come up is what she describes as blurts. This is almost your inner self-talk, your inner voice, that really negative, I think she calls it the censor, where you stop yourself. You're really mean to yourself, honestly. Like if you said these things out loud, if you said them to a friend, you'd be like, what the hell? Why are you saying that? But we say these things to ourselves all the time. And she says these are things that are gonna come up throughout the entire 12 weeks, and to be really attuned to when you recognize a new blurt. Some that I noticed even in this first week, and this does feel kind of vulnerable to talk about. I know I'm not alone in this. Some of the blurts that came up were, who do you think you are? Like, why do you think you can do this? You're not talented enough. You're not unique enough. That I don't have anything unique to add to what is already out there, which is really true of everything. Like nothing is truly original. Everything is inspired by other things. When I say it out loud, I'm like, these are such ridiculous things, but they are things that subconsciously and consciously have held me back from acting on my art. I felt like this week was a really good introduction. I remembered a lot of these readings from last time, but remembering that this is a really lifelong process of cultivating your relationship with your inner artist, your relationship with yourself, and recognizing when you have these thoughts that come up that are really out of fear because you're taking a step forward outside of your comfort zone. And that's a good thing, that's a thing you want, but there are going to be things in place that are just trying to keep you safe, but are preventing you from getting where you really want to go. Definitely a great reminder. As far as the morning pages and the artist date, I went to the movies by myself, which is actually one of my favorite activities, but I hadn't done it in a really long time. I went to go see The Roses, which was kind of a dark romantic comedy. I knew no one else really wanted to go. They would have gone with me, but it wasn't their cup of tea. And I had such a great time going by myself because it was exactly something that I would enjoy. And I just laughed and enjoyed myself and was so in the story, and I didn't have to worry about if the people with me were having a good time and also enjoying it. I could just focus on my own enjoyment, which is honestly one of my favorite parts of going to the movies by myself, is that I can just get absorbed in the story and think about what I actually like about it without being influenced by other people's opinions, which is a lot of what Julia Cameron talks about in The Artist's Way, and the purpose of the morning pages to figure out what your real thoughts are. So I think that was a nice artist date to start off with, especially just to get back into it because it's something that I have done before and I knew I was going to enjoy it. I do want to challenge myself in the future to do some different artist dates, but that was a nice first one. As far as morning pages, I did morning pages 6 out of the 7 days, which my inner perfectionist in me is like, why didn't you do 7? I had a really early morning one day and it just didn't get done, and I had kind of planned to do it at night anyway and just do like evening pages, but it just didn't happen. And that's okay because we are bulldozing through The Artist's Way this time. This is not 75 hard. And yeah, 6 out of 7 days, long form. I will say that this journal that I have must be college ruled, and I think the last time I did it, it was in a wide ruled notebook, still like A5 size. A lot harder to do the college ruled. I feel like it's taking me longer than it did last time. I remember it taking me 30 minutes when I did my last round in April. It's been taking me closer to an hour, which is a lot in the morning, like definitely having to wake up earlier to get this done before work. But I'm committing to the process. I am trusting that the 3 pages are for a reason and hopefully it gets easier. Week 1 done, recovered a sense of safety. But that first week of The Artist's Way is complete. All right, we are back for week 2 of The Artist's Way. Another week down. Excited to talk to you about how this past week went. Let's start off actually with just accountability. Morning pages, 6 out of 7. Again, I feel like anytime I have an earlier morning, it's just, I'm really not willing to compromise my sleep and wake up that much earlier. I'm already waking up earlier than usual to get the morning pages done. So if I have to wake up even earlier than that, it's not gonna happen. I would like to be able to do them at night. So that's gonna be something I'm thinking about moving forward. But 6 out of 7, great. We're bulldozing through. For my artist date, I went to a new to me coffee shop, and it was actually part of a flower shop and was kind of like a shoppy shop. Like there were a lot of fun things to browse, like little trinkets, smelled every single candle, and I sat outside with a notebook and just kind of brainstormed. I ended up brainstorming videos for my YouTube channel for the rest of the year, which was really fun. I was kind of like, does this count as an artist date if it's also kind of work? But I felt like because I wasn't on my computer, I was just sitting and brainstorming and really got into a flow with it, was writing things down. It felt very creative, so that was my artist date of the week. I do think I want to challenge myself to do a different artist date every week. So not going to the movies again or going to a coffee shop. We'll see how that goes. If anybody has any great ideas for an artist date, I would love to hear, because I do feel like I'm kind of scrambling in the second half of the week to come up with something to do. I don't even think I said the theme of the week, but this week in The Artist's Way is recovering a sense of identity. And this week I really noticed even more connections with trauma therapy. I don't know, it just kind of kept coming up. This is part of what I do for work, but noticing the parallels between recovering from trauma and restoring proper function of the nervous system regulation. I could not unsee it from this process of letting go of your inner critic, letting go of the things that have happened in your life that have told you that you're not creative, and recovering, like from last week, the sense of safety, the sense of who are you without this trauma, without everybody else's opinions of your creativity. Hopefully you're following this, but in my mind, I'm like, wow, this is such a parallel. And to me, makes me think, how many more artists and creatives would we have if more people were able to recover that? And to me, it just really makes sense that this is the beginning of this course, because if you do not feel safe, if you do not have a sense of who you are, it's really hard to step out of your comfort zone and to be vulnerable, because creating art is a very vulnerable process. Julia Cameron also talked about this week about poisonous playmates. So people in your life that maybe you realize or don't realize are blocking your creative process. It's a lot of those small comments that people make, and it's really because they themselves are blocked that you recovering in your creativity threatens their sense of safety in the comfort zone that they've created of not acting on their art. I think last week I talked about, one of my blurts is, who do you think you are? And I think this is where it comes up that I've definitely gotten that vibe, whether people have said it directly to me or in the way that they're talking about it, that is very much clear, where I'm thinking a lot about when I first started posting on social media, just posting content, kind of this, who do you think you are? Or, oh, you think you're gonna be like this influencer? What I've realized through the years, it was a lot of people who they themselves had that dream, they had that desire, but were too afraid to put themselves out there in that way. So seeing someone who did act on that, it makes them realize that thought of where you're like, oh, I could do that if only, that I talked about in week 1. And yeah, I just found it really interesting, and also in the ways that I have engaged in that behavior too, because I'm feeling blocked. You know, maybe I wasn't 100% enthusiastic about a friend or someone in my life's creative pursuit that they were starting, and maybe I impacted them in that way too. We're all mirrors of each other, and depending on where you're at in your journey, you might have been on either the receiving end, or maybe you've actually been part of that, whether consciously or unconsciously. And then the other part of the reading that really stood out to me was that when you are feeling blocked, you will fantasize about doing the work instead of actually doing it. And this I literally wrote in big letters. Yep, that hits. One of the creative pursuits that I really want to accomplish in my lifetime is to write a novel. And I will fantasize about sitting down to write and having the most aesthetic and cozy writing environment instead of actually just writing. She really called me out on that one. Another way that I know I have done this and self-sabotaged in a way is that planning the creativity instead of actually doing it. I have planned so many YouTube videos or TikTok videos, but actually doing it is a lot more work. It's a lot more fun to kind of plan out and have all these ideas, but to then actually take the step to do it, there is a block there sometimes. And the way that Julia Cameron says to get through that block is that creative living requires attention, that you really need to be present and engaging with life. And that is something that can be really hard to do in the world that we live in, with constant social media, constantly being exposed to other people's creating. So that's a big part of this process, is learning how to be present with yourself, to be present with your creativity, to stop the if only I had time, if only I had a spare 6 hours to sit at my writing desk and be all cozy and perfectly set up. It's coming down from the daydream and being present in real life and acting on it. I don't think I mentioned this, but at the end of every week, you are supposed to do a check-in for accountability. And exactly like what I do with y'all is to, how many times did you do morning pages? Did you go on your artist date? And then what were some big reflections that came up during the week? I do my check-ins on Sundays, and then I will read the week ahead's readings that day so that it's fresh during the week and I'm able to reflect on it in my morning pages if I want to. One of the questions is reflecting on, you know, what was kind of the theme in your morning pages. And I realized this week that I complain a lot. A lot. I did feel that I needed the morning pages this week, that it felt so good to get all that complaining and all those negative thoughts on paper, and that my mind almost felt a lot more organized afterwards. It felt clearer. It felt so good to take that mental junk that was in my head and get it out before my day had even started. I noticed a pattern of the first out of the 3 pages is just me straight up complaining. It's like every negative thought is, dear diary, this happened. And then the second page, this is what I want to do during the day today, planning out my day, what I need to get done. And then the third page is random. It does end up being connected to a theme from the week, the readings, or something inspires it. And it's like, that's where I'm actually getting a little bit deeper. The first page is like getting all the junk out. Second page is getting my anxiety out of like, these are all the things I have to get done and don't forget this. And then the third page is like, now that we've excavated all that junk, what am I actually feeling? So I do really see the value in doing a full 3 pages. Unfortunately, at first I was like, well, maybe I'll just do a page a day, especially because I'm just trying to get through it. But I think as many days as I can of doing the full 3, I am gonna benefit more from it. But I do feel like the morning pages just take me a really long time. I am not a morning person. I wake up early because I wanna get things done, but I'm not very energized. I don't want to talk to anyone in the morning. And sometimes I feel like I'm just staring off into space, and that's why it takes so long. And I'm like, there are actually no thoughts here. There's actually nothing I want to write because there's nothing going on between the ears right now. And Julia Cameron says to just keep your pen on the page. And if you can't think of anything, to literally write, I don't know what to write. I did that a couple times. I didn't necessarily feel like it jogged anything. So I have done that a couple times. I'm also not doing it like she says to roll out of bed and immediately start writing. I am gonna go make my coffee for sure. Will not be doing morning pages without my coffee. Definitely trying to do it before I check my phone in the morning, before I have any other inputs. I want my thoughts to be what comes out on the page. And the last part of the check-in is noticing any synchronicities. So she talks about how when you take a step in your creative recovery, the universe will reward you with these little nudges, being reminded that you're on the right track. Something, I don't know if this was a synchronicity, but it was something that felt very full circle. This week, I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which to a lot of people I know isn't much. Had a video pop off a little bit, and there's so many new faces here, which I'm so excited about. And while that's really exciting, what's interesting is that when I did the round in April of this year, that was me trying to get the courage to post my first video. When I started The Artist Way. I'm writing about, this feels really scary. I really wanna do this. I don't know why it's taking me so long to do this. I've wanted to have a YouTube channel for years. And I was like, this is the year I'm finally gonna do it. So that round I did in the beginning of the year was really me posting my first couple of videos and being okay with getting no views and them not being very good at all and just being a total beginner in the process. And now to pick up the course again, to get all this traction and to hit a milestone, definitely felt full circle, synchronicity, nudge in the right direction. So I just thought that was cool. I think that's it for week 2. Another week down, 1/6 of the way through. I will see you back next week for week 3. Week 3, we are in it now. What a week. Don't recommend. I have never felt so angry. Lola wants to join today. I felt so angry all week. All week. Like this frustration. It's so crazy how spot on Julia Cameron is with how you're gonna be feeling each week, because there was a whole section on anger in this chapter. This week was about recovering a sense of power. And Julia Cameron says that anger is a sign that your inner creative is coming back online, which I know I keep making parallels to trauma therapy and recovery. Hi, it is very sweet of you. Thank you. But that is also a sign in trauma therapy when you get your anger back. Anger is an emotion that I used to have a very hard time with. I didn't feel very angry very often, and that wasn't a good thing. I thought it was, especially as women, we're taught like anger is bad and you should stuff it down. But anger is a sign when our boundaries are being crossed, when we need to take action. And it was described in the chapter as a sign that the old way that you've been living your life is no longer tolerable for you, and you have to make a change. Anger doesn't need to be this scary, bad thing. It's actually better than feeling apathetic to not taking any action. Anger can be the motivation for us to make a change. And I think that's exactly what was happening in this past week, this 3rd week, where I'd been doing the morning pages. I've been complaining a lot. I haven't been taking action, and it's like, okay, all right already. Like something needs to shift. It was this turning point of like being inspired, kind of frustrated and trying to figure this out. And now like anger, like, okay, we got to shift something. The other cycle and process that was described that was so spot on to me was she was saying that an artist, when they are about to finish their work that they've been so dedicated to, will often suddenly experience this disinterest or no longer see it as something that they should be investing their energy into, and will stop before the project is completed. And it's actually more of a protection mechanism, because when that project is completed, when it's put out into the world, that's a very vulnerable position to be in. So it's almost like our inner psyche, our inner artist has a freak out and is like, actually, it'd be better if we just don't do that. And I think that's almost what happened for me last time when I was trying to complete The Artist Way, where I stopped at week 7 because all of a sudden I wasn't interested in it anymore. That really called me out, that part. The anger was really overwhelming this week. I'm hoping that is a sign I'm moving in the right direction, but it was almost intolerable. I felt so uncomfortable in my body. And because of that, I did morning pages 5 out of the 7 days a week because I was in such a bad mood. I should have done it. It probably would have made me feel better, but there were 2 days where I was just so annoyed, so mad at the process, just feeling frustrated. I was like, I don't want to sit and complain and write in my little journal this morning, but I did do it 5 days. I did make it on my artist date this week. I was actually dog sitting, so I had a place to myself, and I worked on my creative journal practice for a few hours. I also was on Pinterest and was getting some inspiration for some fall outfits. Those both felt like more indulgent activities that I don't get to do all the time, and really nurtured that inner artist. So it was an interesting week, this week 3. I can't believe I'm 3 weeks down, a quarter of the way through this process of the course. I feel like I've experienced a lot of emotions in just these 3 weeks, but I think that's good. What Julia Cameron was talking about in the reading this week, that anger is a good thing. The other side of that would be not feeling anything at all, which I don't think I'd be getting as much out of. While it feels uncomfortable, I'm trusting the process. Just as a check-in for these 3 weeks of what I'm doing and continuing for the next 9, I do want to come up with a list of artist dates because I am struggling at the end of the week to just come up with one on the weekend, which it's been fine. Like, I've been getting them done. I would like to be able to plan them and really dedicate the time to it. So if you have done the artist way and you went on a really great artist date, would love to hear some ideas. And then for morning pages, I definitely want to make an effort that if I don't get it done in the morning, that I could still do it in the evening. I just kind of want to get it done that day. But other than that, I think doing my check-ins on Sundays, doing the reading for the next week ahead, doing the morning pages every day, and then the artist date once a week. I think I have a good rhythm now, and I'm looking forward to the next 9 weeks. If you want to see the rest of the journey, make sure that you're subscribed. I upload new videos every single week, and these are kind of bonus videos I'm putting out while I'm doing the artist way. So make sure you like this video so I know you want to see more of it. Until next time, I'm rooting for you every step of the way.